Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 11. Tom Taylor writing with Cian Turmey on the art. So, yeah. We had the cliffhanger last issue with Batman telling John not to trust Jay because of his association with the Revolutionaries, which is obviously bringing in a bit of the Suicide Squad stuff, which was a nice touch.
Yep. Yep. And also, I do love that Tom Taylor's really telling a generational story, right? And of how John is this new generation of hero, and that to an old like Batman, right? The Revolutionaries seem dangerous, and as we know from Suicide Squad and whatever, they're not. They actually, we know their noble cause. So the fact that Batman's like, oh, you gotta keep him at arm's distance. You can't trust him because he hangs out with this dangerous group of people. I like that thread that went throughout, and then for Pa Kent to sit Batman down and have a talk with him too, another generational thing going on there. So Tom Taylor does best, I feel.
Yeah,
those little small moments.
Yeah, the book starts with they're at like the safe house that Batman's taking the Kents to, and John decides to tell Batman he's wrong. He does, decides to stick up for Jay, but we kind of get his narration, and we know that internally he's kind of, he is kind of like, what if he's right? Like, what if he's?
At the end of the day, it's Batman.
Yeah,
most of the time he's right, but I do love that John brings up that because you almost married Catwoman, and who's Damian's mom? Like, I do love him calling him out on those.
Yeah. An assassin, right? And like, no comment.
Well, that wasn't him though. That was
Pa Kent.
That was Pa Kent.
Oh, that was Pa.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. John leaves because he's got stuff to do.
Gotcha.
To fly off, and then that's when Pa Kent comes out with the tea or the coffee, and it reveals that he's like, oh, this is what this is about. Because as soon as he talks about protecting those who aren't invulnerable, he's like, this is about Alfred. And then starts talking about Alfred like an old friend, and Bruce is like, what? It's like, yeah, we used to talk all the time.
Like every week.
Yeah, ever since we knew who you were and Alfred knew who Superman was, like it kind of became this thing we could confide in each other because we could relate to each other in a way that no one else could. And just talks about how he was there and he would brag about you, but he had to let you make all your mistakes, so you have to let John make his mistakes. And even at one point, I really like the line where he's like, and who between us has more experience raising a Superman? Just
right?
There's some truth. And it references back at the start of Rebirth, John accidentally killing the cat.
Whose name is what, Connor?
That would be Goldie.
I do like that Taylor makes it a motivating factor for John to it is his first trauma, and that it informs. Well, not just an Uncle Ben moment, but he's just like, well, no, I need to try to keep people safe, and by doing that, sometimes I have to stay away from them. Well,
it comes back up later in a nice way, where he talks about learning to control his powers, and he knows, if he's applying too much pressure, if it's hurting someone. Yeah. So it kind of sets it up and kind of bookends the book a little bit with that idea. So I do love that he goes to talk to Dick again, basically for some advice. That it makes sense. Like, he's friends with Dick Grayson, and he's having a bit of a dispute with Batman. Who else to talk to but the person who probably is the best at dealing with Batman, the one who has the most experience in it.
Dick's probably like his cool cousin, right? Like, that's what their relationship's like.
Yeah, cool cousin, cool uncle, maybe, push.
Yeah, because he can talk to him no matter what, and Dick's not gonna judge him too much because he knows what it's like to be in those shoes, and he knows. So it helps that Taylor's writing both of these characters.
Yeah, and it's a nice touch that he's like, so should I investigate him then to be sure? And Dick's like, that's what Batman would do, but that doesn't really sound like you. He's like, I could just ask him, I suppose. Like, yeah, there you go. So sure enough, he goes, they have the serious talk, and Jay talks about how he broke out. And what's funny is when he describes the Revolutionaries coming getting him on the boat, it's very similar to the first time we saw the Revolutionaries. The first time we met them was on a ship. They were attacking a ship. So it's not the same ship, but it's the same sort of visual. So it conjures up.
This was stuff they did.
Yeah,
a reasonable amount.
Well, and then when you know about the origin of Jay and the origin of some of the Revolutionaries, it kind of makes sense that it lines up so much. Kind of the problems that we had, that Jay's too similar to like the Ares, origin and whatnot. But if where was he from? Was it Bodnesia? That's where the area was from.
Yeah.
So and Jay's from this from wherever Bendix is the president of. If they're close to each other, it makes sense that the revolutionaries are breaking up that type of stuff in that area. So it makes that go down a little bit easier. It's still not the best storytelling device, but this makes it easier.
I've not had too much trouble because I wasn't necessarily in love with the cliffhanger last issue, but I don't think anything they did with it this issue was an issue to me.
Oh no, I was more referring
it wasn't
to
particularly thrilling either.
Well, no, I was more referring to how we weren't a big fan of Jay's origin. It just seems like we've been there, done that.
Oh sure,
the presidential child.
Yeah, and this informs that a little bit better. That how it ties it to the revolutionaries, like you said. This is something that we saw them do at the beginning of Suicide Squad when we first ran into them.
Yeah, I'm still not necessarily in love with the mum thing that was revealed, but no, I disagree. I think this issue made that question posed by Batman last issue work for me because the way John had to sort of dispute it with Batman's conversation with Pac-Man, and then going to Dick for help, and then just I'll just ask him about it. That whole thought process, that whole thing felt very natural in character, and the right questions and dilemmas were being dealt with in the way that made sense for the character. So I think that all worked, and I was into the character dynamics. And of course realizes he sort of thinks about the they get to this point where they realize that Bendix is probably controlling people because he mentions the revolutionaries being part of the Suicide Squad and they had bombs in their necks, and then it kind of wait a minute it starts to put some things together.
Yeah, when they try to frame me, the guy froze up and it seemed like he wasn't in control anymore. So Bendix is probably controlling people with the same type of stuff.
And remembers that they put the Burning Man at the Hall of Justice. So he speeds off to Wally, who's there, and is we have to deal with the fact that Bendix may be able to control him at any moment and have this device in his head, which can also kill them, which they've also used before. And they get the Atom, and the Atom goes inside to try and deactivate it. But Bendix and co sense that something's going on, it's been tampered with. So Bendix tries to take control, tries to get him to burn up, and we get a great sequence where the Atom has to jump out of his body. John has to catch him and then fly up with the Burning Man up until the sky. And I'm not necessarily sometimes I feel they have Superman and do too much with his powers, and sometimes it goes a little bit too far for me. So I'm not necessarily in love with the idea that he is able to do kind of microscopic heat vision surgery. But
I kind of hated this.
Sure, but what I did like about this scene, before Connor goes all negative and shits all over it, is the moment where Bendix tries to pretend that he's just the Burning Man and tries to say you're hurting me and tries to plead to him and play to his sympathy, and John says, "No, I'm not. I know what I'm applying. I know the pressure I'm applying. I've been doing this since I was getting it tied back into the cat thing. He for his whole life he has made sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that he knows what he's doing to other people around him with his powers, with his strength, whatever it may be." And he's like, "No, I know it's you, Bendix. I know what you're doing, and you're going to pay for this. And I'm honest when I say things like this. I make a point of not lying." So it felt I think just the act of him using this as a way to communicate and just speak directly to Bendix as a sort of hero to the villain thing, I actually thought was really inventive. So I really like that part of it.
I like that as well. As for the actual removal of the device, I know this is Superman, but it was essentially because Batman.
Yeah.
Because John.
Right? And I'm like, if we could do this in the first place, where, I can just combine all these powers and we'll do brain surgery. Why did we send the Atom in the first place? Why did we have that whole? Why don't you just blast out? Immediately.
With the Atom is they were trying to see if they could disconnect it without them knowing. So it was which tripped an alarm.
I also got the sense that he wasn't 100% sure it would work, or at the very least he wasn't sure. Maybe this is a little dangerous, but he's at a point of no return at this point, so he's going to try it anyway. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily defending it in the sense that I don't really like that his powers can do this.
I don't. I really hate it because I don't understand how this works with heat vision. Because how does it not hit any of the rest of the brain? Like, how does it not go through? How's the man not got a
surgeon?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I get he can use X-ray vision and see where it is.
Right.
But the idea that it doesn't hit anything else on the way through, right?
Right.
That he doesn't, the heat vision doesn't continue going through it afterwards. It just it is exactly the perfect amount of pressure. It's a lot of things that I just really don't like.
Yeah, I don't like any of that either. I think it's too much. It's too it's the same whenever Superman can actually look at the molecular structure of something and be like, oh, I can analyze this like a microscope kind of thing. Like, I know he's got microscopic vision, and I don't mind him being able to zoom in and look far away or look at small details, but
yeah.
Do you know what this is? It's the same problem I had with a certain period of Doctor Who over the last few years, where there was a point during the end of the Russell T Davies period where, or it might have been the start of the Moffat area, where the Doctor's like, just this once, nobody dies, everybody lives, and then because before there are people tend to die, in those stories, he doesn't save everyone, and then over time it got more and more like, oh no, he just became more of a Superman figure, and like, oh, we'll just save everyone all the time. I kind of would have preferred this here if John didn't save him. Like, it's just too easy. Oh, we'll save this guy. It's fine. There's no. I'm losing the feeling of the stakes here.
Ideally, that he took him up to the upper atmosphere because the fire can't burn.
Yeah, so, which is a great idea. I like that.
Right.
And, the idea that he tries everything and then loses anyway.
I don't necessarily mind. I don't think I agree with the stakes thing, because he has other people have died. Like,
they have, but
so
like this one in particular, I felt it because it felt like his death should have been the outcome here for me, because they tried to save him, they tried multiple things, and then here it's just we'll just pull this out of back pocket. That'll do. I really it kind of soured me on the ending of this issue quite a bit.
I don't think it fits in this issue, because the whole point of this moment and him telling the villain that he's coming for him, it's meant, because the final couple of pages is that Bendix is scared enough that he's trying to rush his plans ahead with Luthor, and he's like, let's get everything moving.
Yeah.
I think if he dies, if this character Lachlan, if he dies here, it kind of puts this completely different spin on how this entire ending feels, even if it still motivates the villain to do what he's doing. I think the whole point of this is that this is the moment where the hero feels like he's accomplished something, like he can win the day, because things aren't going to get. We're not at our worst yet. This is like end of Act 1. The hero thinks that they are unstoppable before we get to the end of Act 2, where things are at their worst. So, I just don't think it fits here, given what the entire point of the end of this issue is supposed to be.
I get that, but I also don't feel like it fits with the build of the back half of the issue either. So I don't know if there's a way that it can win. Really, unfortunately, I feel like it was kind of written into a corner.
I think it does win though. That's the problem. I don't agree with you.
No, that's fair.
I mean,
you can be wrong.
I think it's fine that he survives. I just wish there was an alternate way.
That's where I kind of come with that. I don't feel like it wins, because it wrote itself into a corner where the only way he can survive is just.
I'm not talking about I am not talking about the method. I don't like the method either. I made that clear at the start.
But I do like the point where he looks at it and goes, "Bendix, I'm on to you. We're coming." I do like that.
I'm just talking about the themes and the story beats and what this is doing at the end. It makes sense to me in where the story is and what it's propelling with both John and the villain and where it's going. That stuff I think does work and does make complete sense. The only problem I have with any of it is the exact method of which he uses to save him.
Right, and that is kind of it forces a bigger problem for me, in that if that's the only way you could get out of it, by making up something that bullshitty, you've written yourself into a corner.
No, because I don't feel it's that bullshitty. I just think it's leading on. If
Batman did this, you'd be calling it bullshit.
What's that?
If Batman did this, you'd be calling it.
No,
bullshit.
I know, but it's relying too much on it because of that, and that's I don't want to say lazy writing, but it's not. I feel Taylor's a good enough writer that he could have come up with an alternate way, and that's what we expect. Like we expect this out of someone that we don't admire as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a huge deal though in the long run.
No, to me it's not, because I mean if that's the case, if this is how John's gonna solve every problem, then when the Suicide Squad show up, he can just microsurgery, all their bombs out of their neck, and then there's no more super.
For them, it's easier though because you can just heat vision the back of their neck. If to me, it's more believable he could do that because it's just the back of their neck as opposed to be in their brain.
Right. So it's just it's something I don't think will ever be brought up again. I feel like it's just it was a quick to get to point A to point B.
Especially, yeah, because I feel like it'd almost be a funny thing if like all the Suicide Squad members who were there that you kind of like freed from their bomb, like if the rest of their lives they all had like just this burn mark in the back of their neck.
What's that from?
Superman. That seems quite violent for Superman. No, he was saving my life. It was a thing. So yeah, maybe we should.
But no, other than that, I thought it was a pretty decent issue.
Yeah, that was a fine issue. I liked a lot of it.
The Pa Kent and Bruce talk about Alfred, which then also made me think, all right, Dark Crisis, things change to the Crisis. Are we getting Alfred back? Which you shouldn't be thinking of, but
I forgot about Dark Crisis.
I wasn't even really thinking about Dark Crisis changing anything, even though it's a call of Crisis, so I should have been thinking that. I
try not to think about Dark Crisis as little as I can.
Tom Taylor wrote a really good Alfred story in that whatever anthology it was. Was it an annual?
I think it was the annual.
Yeah. I would like to see, but then again, that also writes into a corner with the Dick Grayson and the Alfred Foundation. So I don't know. But no,
give Alfred back all his money all of a sudden.
Yeah, right. I was like, I don't need it. Oh, I like being a butler. But no, and the art's been pretty consistent, right? Tormy.
Yeah.
I actually feel like this issue was not his strongest. In the first half, especially, I think there's some of the panels between John and Batman where I feel like I can still see some of the early pass work on John, like the early pencils before it goes over with the inks, and like the rougher outlines.
Mm-hmm.
They're not physically there, obviously, and the thing, but I feel like during the shapes and just some of it feels just a slightly less finished piece than usual. But I mean, it's still not bad by any means.
Yeah,
just not up to the usual standard for me.
In general, or this book?
For Tommy in particular.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the art's kind of like being in this place where it's just a consistent kind of, upper 7, solid, but not, blow away by any means.
That's what I meant by consistent. It's from book to book. It's been good. I can't,
Yeah. It's just because obviously I think it's naturally compared to the other Taylor book, which we're reading, which is Redondo in most issues.
It's a little bit unfair.
So there's a bit of a comparison. It's a little rougher, but
I just feel like there's not like these. I don't ever have these big wow like breakdown moments or splash pages, and I feel like it's like when they say like a journeyman like director where there's not a lot of like style. Although I don't want to say that about Tormy because Tormy has a style, but
yeah, I guess the layouts are just a bit more house style, I suppose.
Yeah, it's and it works to tell the story, and you never get lost in there, but there's the right amount of detail. So
yeah, that's fair. All right, Matt, what are you giving Superman Son of Kal-El issue 11?
It's a 7.5.
Connor?
I'll give it a 6.5.
Yeah, I will go. I'll probably agree with the 7.5. I was tempted to go a lot higher, but like I don't like the brain surgery power either. So
yeah,
getting some dot points there for that.